one of the leaders of this movement, I have been messaged so many times to come up with a solution, a more permanent solution than blue bracelets and safety pins, so that, like, when we're in the pickup line at school, we know how to identify each other. And some people suggested a tattoo, so I did go get my tattoo. I suggest everybody get this so that, like, when you're in the pickup line at school and you need to know what parents you can talk to, you just have to go like this.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Ken's Corner. Of course, you know that I'm here with both Ken and Brett. Ken, it's good to see you, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to go, man. Exciting show.
Ready to bob and weave?
Ready to bob and weave, yeah.
Do some subtle jab. Jab. Brett, how are you doing? Welcome to the state of California again.
I'm doing great. Not excited to be back in California, but it's good to catch up with old friends and help the family out. So Good to be here.
Yeah, we definitely are going to be praying for your parent.
My mom.
Your mother.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been praying for her, and we'll continue to pray for her.
Yes. I appreciate that very much.
Yes.
She's a strong woman.
Of course. So yes, make sure to lift up Brett's mother in prayer. And Ken, I hear you've been talking to a wonderful Christian brother that I took to task.
Yes. I did Mike Winger's podcast this past Tuesday, and which was the 20th. And he's so far behind on editing and stuff. He said, I might have it out maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But I was basically talking about the Benny time that I had, all the time that I like mentioning one thing, because even Costi, remember Costi?
Costi Hinn,
Costi Hinn, the nephew. I told Mike, I said, I lived at Benny's house for a month and was at his, basically, I lived at the house, and he goes, there is nobody that has ever done that. And it's like, I'm like one of the only ones. Yep. So anyway, Mike and I had a good talk all about the Benny stuff. So we'll see how he edits that, and should be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah. So
about the Bennies.
Yeah. Talking about Benny Hinn. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, Mike's all over the place these days.
Yeah. Well, he had remember his 4-hour video he did on Benny, and then they tried to take it down, and he did another video on Benny, and then he was just, And then I contacted him, and he contacted me back and said, I want you on, I want to talk to you about this. And I just recently, what's funny is I've just felt released to talk about it. It's from 30 years ago, and I've just felt released to talk about it. I don't know why. I just felt released. I don't know. I have no clue. Yep.
Well, and I can say, from knowing you, because we would have our private talks, you had a front row seat to everything that happened during those years.
Everything. Yep. And
well, before I forget, just to remind everybody, Brett and Ken will be doing a double flying armbar straight to the mouth of the propaganda media, which rules the roost. Oh, wow. Wow. He's going to need a dentist for the teeth he's missing.
Snapped his bicep. That's awesome.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. There's a lot of news out there. Let's start with,
one thing.
Oh, yes, your shirt.
Yes.
My shirt. I have to. I'm sorry. So, it's called Operation Surf, and it's honoring active duty military, wounded, and veteran heroes through epic surfing programs. So, and remember, guys, spread our funny views of serious news. That's our new tagline.
Wait. I thought that was Swift Boat. Swift Boat for John Kerry. I thought that was a Mongol shirt, like Genghis, the hordes of Genghis Khan coming down the river.
Oh man! And if I got my ex-father-in-law, before I was saved, I was married before. He was a Navy SEAL. He was he was actually in Vietnam, and that's where the SEALs kind of got their popularity. And he was on the mission to save John Kerry, believe it or not. Yep.
I don't know if I want to thank him or take him to task.
No, and he was shooting at him. He was shooting. John Kerry was shooting at him, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Par for the course for John Kerry.
It was a crazy story. But all right, guys, real quick, remember to like, share, and comment on the podcast. Pushes it out to more people. And you go, Jay. You're on.
All right. Well, in what felt less like the art of the deal and more like Oliver Twist, billionaire edition Donald J. Trump made his way to Mecca adjacent turf, hat in hand, metaphorically, of course, channeling his inner Dickens orphan. Surrounded by the opulence of gold and enough air conditioning to freeze the political scandals, the former president seemed to utter the immortal line, "Please, sir, may I have some more oil?" Turns out, when it comes to Middle East diplomacy, even Donald Trump knows you gotta swap a MAGA cap for a beggar's bowl. Take it away, Brett.
Yeah, so Trump embraced the Arab states as he tries to get them to invest in the U.S. economy. In his trip to Saudi Arabia, not only did the Saudi Arabians embrace al-Shara, the new president of Syria, so did Trump. So did Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in an effort to bring normalcy and what we keep hearing is peace and prosperity to the Middle East, welcomed al-Sharia, former leader of al-Qaeda, also now giving him legitimacy as the new president of Syria. He went over there and lifted all sanctions on Syria and included lifting the $10 million bounty that we had on al-Shara for the killing of Americans. Before his team went over to Saudi Arabia, Alan Kirshner, although not a member of Trump's administration, was advising the Trump team ahead of his visit. And just so you know that Kushner is also a very close friend of Mohammed.
MBS.
Mohammed. Yeah, MBS of Saudi Arabia. And MBS has given Kirshner over $1 billion into his hedge fund to help out Kirshner out of bad investment deals. One of Kushner's partners, who is both part Syrian and Moroccan descent, is looking to invest in Morocco and also extend and push the Abraham Accords. Another one of his Syrian partners is looking to invest and expand the Abraham Accords and invest more in Syria. They feel that adding money and investment can bring peace and prosperity to the region. And as I mentioned earlier, Trump announced the lifting of all U.S. sanctions on Syria, stating, quote, "give them a chance at greatness," and also commented a willingness to normalize relationships with Syria.
Wow. That's all you keep hearing. Peace, prosperity, peace, prosperity. Where have I heard that before?
Right? And then what you just kind of wonder, we know, the Islamic faith, and their whole thing is, hey, we're your friends till we get the upper hand.
Yeah.
Not only are we bringing them peace and prosperity, but we're giving them we're helping them give that upper hand to lift them up above us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't help but think, Al-Qaeda we know has ties originally to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. In fact, it was a CIA operation that originally funded the Mujahideen fighters under Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
This guy is a former member of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, which I believe in recent years has come into question that perhaps, just perhaps, some of the ISIS fighters were also intelligence assets, which brings to question the revolution in Syria against the Russian dictator Bashar al-Assad. Was it all just an American play for power in the Middle East?
I believe it was it was only 800 fighters backed by Erdogan that went in and overthrew the whole government in a matter of a week.
Yeah. Fast too.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's something going on there, and I don't like where it's going, and I certainly don't like Donald Trump deciding to legitimize a person who just a few years ago we were sold we must defeat ISIS, we must defeat Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah. Cozying up to a person that was on Homeland Security.
Right.
And now he's our friend.
Now he's our friend. Yeah. And because he's wearing a suit.
Yeah. Trimmed his beard up, threw a suit on him, and he's a new guy.
Give him a Massa cap. Make American Syria great again. Wait, no, that doesn't quite work. All right. I'm going to save myself and go on to the next story.
Go.
In a plot twist that nobody saw coming except maybe Odin with his all-seeing eye, the ancient land of axes, ale, and epic sagas is now pillaging the past and plundering the future, one tap at a time. That's right. Norway and the Nordic neighbors are trading their runestones for algorithms, leading the charge towards a cashless society. Forget gold coins, dragon hordes. These modern-day Vikings prefer mobile wallets over mead mugs. Skull to the digital age.
Your intros are classic, man.
They're epic. The Nordic countries are leading the way to a cashless society. Sweden has become nearly cashless, with less than 2% of transactions occurring in physical cash dated back to 2020. Their digital system, the Swish, has over 8.9 million users of a country whose total population is only 10.5 million.
Wow.
The governor of Riesbeck believes Sweden could stop accepting cash payments as soon as this year or in the near future. Another Nordic country, Norway, is close to going cashless as well. Their program, called VIPS, is owned by DNB Bank and reported around 90% of its customers are now using this program, which now also accepts cryptocurrency. Denmark, only 11% of transactions were done using cash. In an even scarier development, Nordic nations, customers report having a high level of trust in the banking institutions and their governments.
Wow.
So you're saying all Nordic people are naive?
Well, me being mostly Nordic, I would hope not, but
yeah,
I guess they didn't get out.
Well, we can't count you. You live in America. You gave up all the Viking raiding long ago.
Yeah.
In fact, all the Minnesotans that I know are no longer Vikings.
No.
This brings up a bigger question. What happens when someone decides to hack the digital currency of the Nordic states? Will it be the greatest theft of all time to steal all the digital currency?
Right.
Imagine shutting
in Northern
down.
Europe?
Shutting it down. Yep.
Or the power grid goes down. And
the power grid goes down. Yep.
Well, they do have a lot of volcanic activity up there, so they could have geothermal.
Yeah.
That kind of works in their favor. But yeah, that could be bad.
Yeah, could be bad.
In our next story, in a plot twist that sounds like it was written by a conspiracy theorist on Red Bull, Canada finds itself in the middle of a bird brain scandal. Ostriches. Yes, I'll let that lie there. Giant flightless birds, known for sprinting than science, are quietly being used in Japan to develop an alternative bird flu vaccine. But now, the birds are being called faster than you can say avian interference. Moderna, having pocketed a cozy $500 million from the Canadian government for their own bird flu jab, is watching the ostrich option get scrambled. Coincidence? Maybe. But if you're taking out the competition with poultry assassinations, we've just entered a new Jurassic Pharma.
Yeah.
Love it. So back in just December 31st of 2024, so just a little over 5.5 months ago, 2 ostriches died of H5N1 or avian flu, what was reportedly brought in to the 65-acre ostrich farm in Edgewood, British Columbia. The initial outbreak only killed 40 of the 400 ostriches, which was mostly the younger birds that died. Within days, the outbreak of the flock stabilized, and the remaining 90% are thriving. The farm owner observed that these birds had developed immunity, something clearly special and scientifically fascinating. But the Canadian Food and Inspection Agency, the CFIA, demanded that all the birds be killed. No. Despite the farmers' pleas for testing and further scientific study, the Canadian federal court sided with the CFIA on May 13th. So despite their amazing herd immunity and the fact that the eggs contain powerful antibodies that have shown to contain incredible therapeutic potential, each ostrich egg can yield as many antibodies as 100 chicken eggs or 800 rabbits.
Wow.
Could that be a convenient truth to the pharmaceutical industry? The ostrich antibodies have been used to neutralize viruses effectively. Hospitals in Japan ran successful clinical trials using ostrich antibody nasal sprays for virus prevention. We have herd immunity. And then also, as we've heard, the WHO and the World Economic Forum are suggesting that the avian flu is the next COVID. One of our favorite companies, Moderna, has already, as Jay said, been given $590 million to create the next bird flu vaccine, while Canada has already bought 550,000 doses of the bird flu. This planned mass killing of healthy immune birds hasn't gone unnoticed. The British Columbian Premier has spoken out against it, and also in the U.S., RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, along with the heads of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the National Institute of Health, have formally asked the CFIA to reconsider planning this mass cull. Kennedy also said, quote, "These animals live to be 50 years old. They are not badly affected by the bird flu. We should be studying them. I'm horrified that they are going to kill these animals."
Wow.
In a statement that has just been given to us from Moderna, they would just like us to make sure that we are aware that we should trust the science.
Yes, their science.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
What does this mean as far as, like natural immunity comes basically to these birds. These birds are now good to basically give vaccine, real vaccines, like Louis Pasteur vaccines. You take it from the infected that survived, that has antibodies, and now you can give it to other people. This is real science. That is old, almost 200 years old. But there's not a lot of money to be made there, is there?
Nope.
Okay, answer.
A whole lot of money to be lost.
Yeah. Well, yep, that's all it is. That's all they think about. Maranatha.
Please, Lord, come soon.
Please,
Lord. We dearly would like you to come. Now that we're here, I just wanted to give you guys all an update. I know that many of you are praying for Jacob. Just wanted to let you know that Jacob is in Bangkok Hospital now. So please continue to pray for him. Keep lifting him up to the Lord. Just wanted to stop and say that real quick before we move on to our next story, which is an even bigger downer. Or you had more.
Hold on. Jay, I had one more. Yeah, just on a follow-up to Trump's visit to the Middle East. After Saudi Arabia, he went to Qatar, and he made a deal with them to purchase $96 billion from Boeing for approximately 210 planes, including Dreamliners and the 776 model, along with deals involving aerospace, defense, infrastructure, and worth $243 billion. and then looking for an economic exchange agreement to total up to a total of $1.2 trillion. The U.S. and Qatar signed an intent to increase their security partnership, including support for operations of their air base and future air defense and marine security for another $38 billion.
Wow.
And then part of this is Trump. This is Trump's quote to Qatar. Quote, "We are going to protect this society, this country. It's a very special place with a special royal family. It's a great people, and they're going to be protected by the United States." And you got to remember, Qatar funds Hamas, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, all the Iranian proxies. They're one of the biggest, with them and Iran, are one of the biggest funders of terrorism around the world. And now we are pledging that they are a great society and we are going to defend them at all costs.
Yeah.
He also said that this is the U.S.'s golden era, and it could be the golden era for the Middle East as well if they work with the U.S. The problem with this is for these bases, we give up the right to defend Israel or to go after any of Qatar and Iran's proxies from these air bases that are in Qatar, Iraq, and Turkey. So it basically renders those air bases useless for what we really need them for. In total, Trump's Middle East tour is bringing in $3.2 trillion, and Trump believing that it could hit a possible $10 trillion in total when you bring in the technology, and the main source of investment is AI. And with AI, you got to kind of wonder, is Qatar really who we want developing our AI, and how are they going to use that? And just kind of a follow-up to that, Qatar and Saudi Arabia announced that they've already paid the Syrian debt of $15.5 million to the World Bank International Development Association. The bank said, quote, "We are pleased that the clearance of the Syrians' arrears will allow the World Bank Group to re-engage with the country and address the development needs of the Syrian people," unquote. The first project in our re-engagement with Syria is centered on access to electricity, investments, and money is just flooding into Syria after Trump lifted all the sanctions. Dubai has already signed an $800 million memorandum to rebuild the port of Taris. As of now, the people of Syria, to get an idea of how devastated Syria is, the average people in Syria only get about 2 hours of electricity a day.
Wow.
Syrians and 2.5 to 3 million Syrians have zero access to any electricity. The UN has warned that Syria was the most drought-prone nation in the area, and only 50% of Syrians have access to clean drinking water. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The Euphrates River is Syria's main water source, and it is claimed that the flow has dropped more than 50% due to both drought and restrictions by Turkey. Over 65% of the people have no access to healthcare. The majority of skilled labor left the country once the war began, and 90% of the population lives well below the poverty line. And the currency, which is the SYP, before the war was roughly 47 CYP to 1 USD. That exchange now fluctuates from 47 to 11,000 to 13,000 per US dollar.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder. And the thought that came to my mind was, we know Isaiah 17 says Damascus will be destroyed in a day. And yet we saw Syria get destroyed over years. And now for a country that seems completely devastated, you have all these countries wanting to come in, dumping a ton of money in to rebuild it. And again, it looks like that puts Isaiah 17 back on the table. And then we also have, the Euphrates starting to dry up.
Yeah.
Again, these all have end time implications.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yep.
What's interesting is you kind of touched on it. The people that supported this new leader in Syria one of the main supporters was Turkey.
Yes.
And who controls the water in
Turkey.
Syria? Turkey. So that's that could that have been the lever that finally made Assad flee? It's like, we're just going to shut down your water. Pretty scary stuff. Yes, the prophecy does state that Syria will cease to be. In fact, that is the rallying call of most of the people who are into biblical prophecy. Is that the main city of Damascus will be a ruin. It will be a heap.
Yeah.
In a day.
In a day.
Isaiah 17.
So one interesting side note too, when I was doing my research, is the World Economic Forum is moving their Davos. It's no longer going to be where it was in Switzerland before, correct?
Yeah.
It is now from now on until for the near future going to be in Riyadh.
Wow.
Oh.
Holy smokes.
An entire shift of this Middle East empire coming back. Is it going to be a new caliphate?
Wow.
And Ken, you brought up, a couple weeks ago, we talked about, keep your eye on Turkey.
Yeah.
It's Turkey and Persia, Iran. They're, I think, are major players that we're looking at.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, it makes it much easier to bring in the underage, entertainment to a country that, 6-year-olds can be married off.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Speaking of children, and in a moment that should have been lit up headlines across the world, RFK testified that the Biden administration was overseeing the largest child trafficking operation in U.S. history. You'd expect there'd be gasps in the room, follow-ups, maybe even a journalistic pulse. Instead, crickets. No one is saying anything.
Nothing.
And the science is so uncomfortable that we here at Ken's Corner need to say something. Yeah. Whether you think RFK is onto something out of left field or you don't believe him at all, if a presidential candidate accuses the sitting administration of industrial-scale child trafficking and nobody covers it, do you think there might be collusion?
Yeah.
Just a little?
We have a video. We'll start there, and then you can comment. Let's see the video. There we go.
I state without reservation that the United States federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. The probability that thousands of these UACs are being raped at this very moment is 100%. Chairman Higgins, Ranking Member Correa, Chairman Bishop, Ranking Member Ivey, and the members of the subcommittee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the evil of child trafficking caused by the open border policies under President Joe Biden and his administration. I served in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years until I retired as a deputy patrol agent in charge in San Diego sector. I worked under 5 presidential administrations, and only one president secured the border, President Donald Trump. Border Patrol agents went from working and being supported by the greatest border president in American history to the worst, President Joe Biden. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. On his first day in office, I watched in disbelief as 94 executive orders cascaded down from Washington, D.C., obliterating every immigration policy that had been provided the most secure border in America's history. Border Patrol agents were forced to carry out unconstitutional orders that violated every law in the Immigration Nationality Act. President Biden, through Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, created policy out of thin air, ignored federal immigration law, and facilitated the largest mass invasion into America that the world has ever seen. The United States of America will have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in 4 years to fund the needs of over 50 million illegal aliens that populate our nation. Between 1 in 6 and 1 in 7 residents in America is an illegal alien. America has suffered the greatest demographic shift in modern history. After serving in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years, spending a year researching and writing a best-selling book entitled Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, and filming 2 documentaries, I state with complete certainty that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas intentionally, strategically, and purposely weaponized illegal immigration and used it as a tool to fundamentally transform America. Inside this invasion, the unspoken evil of child trafficking, and more specifically, child sex trafficking, has flourished. At the end of this current administration, the number of children trafficked will have grown to over 550,000 unaccompanied alien children known as UACs. This horrific number of children will have been arrested, released into America, and then lost. To put this into context, during President Trump's last year in office, Customs and Border Protection arrested 30,557 UACs who were accounted for and not lost. Conversely, in the first year of Biden's presidency, CBP arrested 147,975 UACs, most of which are unaccompanied for and lost. In 2023, Congressional Hearings Health and Human Services Javier Becerra and Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement Robin Marcos forced to admit that their agency had no contact with over 85,000 UACs. They were lost. What did DHS, HHS, and ORR do to correct this humanitarian disaster? Nothing. In fact, all three agencies created further policies and procedures to increase the efficiency of moving UACs from the border to the interior of the United States to unknown and unvetted sponsors. Unaccompanied alien children were being handed off to total strangers. Then they disappeared into the darkness of labor and sex trafficking. In fact, a year later, in August of 2024, the Inspector General, with oversight over DHS, issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000. My business partner, Ryan Matt, and I spent 6 months traveling across America, filming a documentary titled, What is Treason Trafficked? The evil of child sex trafficking is difficult to digest and understand. However, after conducting numerous interviews with officers, agents, and whistleblowers from every alphabet agency and department, it was made clear to us that the federal government knowingly and actively facilitated these criminal acts.
So that was a Senate hearing, and he obviously was a former San Diego. He worked in San Diego. He was a former Border Patrol guy. But I have also RFK. He was testifying before Senate, and here's his quotes. Under the Biden administration, the federal government became the biggest facilitator of child abuse in our country. Quote, my predecessor prioritized speed over safety. In stark contrast, this administration is putting a halt to child trafficking problem. And then he said, we are fingerprinting every sponsor, DNA testing, income testing, and valid ID testing. Nobody gets a kid until they are proven that to be a family member. And all I know is this is so unacceptable. Our government is so far gone. But what he had was 290,000 to 500,000 undocumented children missing, and I know the numbers are insane. Remember what Jesus said about children. That's all I gotta say. And you simply cannot come back from this. And none of this is newsworthy. I have to go on X to find all this stuff. So our media is so disgusting for all the cover up they do. The Biden administration needs to be prosecuted for this. It's pure evil. They will be severely judged. And how can you possibly be okay with this? Biden is responsible for so many children's lives being lost or abused. Seriously, this is hard to stomach. I simply don't have adequate words. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, but Epstein committed suicide, and P. Diddy was just a rapper.
No, not according to Ben Bongino and Cash, which will be later.
Yeah, we'll talk with those two marionettes in a minute.
Yeah,
one thing that doesn't even get brought up is the kids that don't make it across.
Yeah,
I mean, you remember the one story, and this just kills me to even say because it breaks my heart. Is they found that one young girl? I don't know if she was a young teen or just not quite a teen yet, and they found 9 different DNA samples inside her when they found her dead at the border.
Yep.
And that just goes away, and no one said you don't see anybody protesting about that. You don't see anybody complaining about that, and that wasn't a one-off.
No.
I mean, they were passing out post-rape kits to all the people coming across. Yeah,
that's right.
They have no love for children other than the ones that are politically expedient for them.
Yeah.
Speaking about children that are not politically expedient for them, 63 million abortions in the U.S. since Roe v. Wade, a large percentage facilitated by Planned Parenthood. It's less a family planning service and more a historical monument with the phrase choice over chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deaths
Yeah.
ranks of here's how it works out every single year as far as deaths in America. Abortion, which is not counted by the CDC, approximately 930,000.
Yeah.
Next is heart disease, 695,000, and
Distant
cancer,
second.
600,000. I wonder if cancer and heart disease combined kind of illustrate why the number one death is abortion.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood is performing more abortions than ever, and it's also getting more money from the federal government than ever. What does a country that gives $792 million to Planned Parenthood in a single year deserve? And also, what does a country that has killed more than 63 million children since 1973 deserve? The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, but then the number of abortions in the United States went up higher. So we have been systematically wiping out for future generations of Americans. Then we have the gall to claim that we're a great nation, right? In ancient times, the practice of child sacrifice allowed pagan societies to get rid of large numbers of unwanted babies. They sacrificed thousands of children to their gods, but we have sacrificed tens of millions of children on the altar of convenience. Abortion is the key revenue generator for Planned Parenthood. That is one of the reasons it gets pushed so hard over the other services. The blood of children that are being slaughtered is crying out for justice. And the federal government is a primary source of funding that Planned Parenthood is doing. Every year, hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars go to Planned Parenthood. Every year, ask the federal government pro-life people ask the federal government to stop. But every year, politicians in Washington just keep showering Planned Parenthood with more cash. The federal government is the number one source of revenue for Planned Parenthood, so they are complicit in their crimes. The overturning of Roe v. Wade was an opportunity for our nation to repent. But instead of repenting, the number of abortions has gone up 7%. Crazy. If we continue to kill children on an industrial scale, there will be no future for America. How much time do we have until we get what we deserve? I have a feeling we will soon find out. So
let's see. We are probably the number one child trafficker in the world.
Yeah.
And we're probably the number one people to kill children, but yet we'll scream, God bless America.
Yeah.
How can God bless America?
I believe we're also the number one exporter of porn as well.
Yeah. That's it. And cheeseburgers. So sorry.
Cheeseburgers are okay.
I don't understand the from especially from the Christian right. Where's the outrage?
Yes.
Where is it?
I'm not a big fan of Billy Graham, but he did say one thing one time. He said, if God doesn't judge America, he has to offer Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. That was
on kind of a side note, I've heard from more than a few people that went into Planned Parenthood and they encouraged them and almost pushed them to have an abortion. There was no talk about anything else. It's like, no, you have to do this. It's for your own good. And they pushed it. There was no counseling. There was no, what are the side effects of this are going to be? What is going to be the mental repercussions of what you're doing? It was, no, you need to do this. And they were almost forcing it.
Wow.
Yeah. Please, Lord, come quickly.
Maranatha.
Save these little children.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Patel's FBI. Well, FBI agents sue for anonymity because accountability is so last century. In a legal twist worthy of Kafka, or maybe just DC, FBI agents who were instrumental in the post-January 6th crackdown are now suing, not for justice, but to keep their identities hidden from the public.
Yeah.
or surveilled.
Yeah.
Apparently, kicking in doors at dawn and interrogating grandmas wasn't enough. Now they want a legal invisibility cloak because, of course, nothing screams land of the free like a police state agent demanding secrecy after allegedly terrifying and terrorizing citizens.
Yeah.
If only
Yeah.
Stalin or Pol Pot had lawyers this good, maybe they would have not needed the gulags or the killing fields. Just a good PR firm, and that would have sealed the affidavit.
Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you a short story. So Chris Kuhn is a 22-year-old veteran. He received numerous medals and awards, including a Purple Heart, a Navy Commendation Medal with Valor, and a Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with Valor for actions in combat. And on January 6, 2021, Chris went inside the Capitol, but did not cause any harm or damage. In fact, he cleaned trash off the floor and even went up to Capitol police officers to ask if he could help. So on February 11th, so almost 1 month later, in the early morning, Chris, his 4-year-old child, and his pregnant wife, Annette, were awakened by sirens and lights. The house was surrounded by FBI and law enforcement. Annette later went public and said there was about 20 FBI and SWAT team members with all their automatic rifles pointed at my son and I. And today there is an exclusive video of Annette holding her crying son as these FBI SWAT cops raided their home. And we're losing America to these heartless tyrants, man. Annette was forced outside barefoot in February in Kansas. She miscarried her baby the next day. This is one family story, horrific abuse they endured at the hands of the FBI, and over 1,000 more families have similar stories. So now a group of FBI employees who investigated the January 6th event have asked the judge to order the Justice Department to destroy its list of 5,000 plus FBI employees who were part of the Capitol's investigation. Amazing. Can't make this stuff up. These disgusting men and women are frightened and don't want to be publicly shamed for their grotesque abuse of their fellow Americans. In other words, these FBI agents want personal protections they strip from hundreds of Americans. Let's pray Kash Patel does the right thing. After him and Dan Bongino's interview, I doubt it, but very disappointing. I have a feeling they are still employed. Nothing has changed.
And Ken, you said 5,000 FBI agents.
5,000. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's 40,000.
So much for there was a few agents that kind of, stoked the flames.
Bad apples inside the organization. The FBI have nothing but wonderful, upstanding officers in their ranks. Yes.
How many employees does the FBI have? How many employees does the FBI have?
And you don't get 5,000 FBI agents on one thing without it coming from the very top.
Yeah, 38,000 it says. 38,000.
13% of all FBI agents are bad.
Well, are bad.
No,
they're bad.
They're lawless.
Yeah.
Tyrannical. Certainly have no clue about due process and the freedom to a speedy trial. That's definitely an organization I continue to want to fund with my taxpayer dollar.
That's why they were looking for Kash to take it down, man. But
good luck.
Good luck with that. Yeah, we all we're gonna play a video.
We're hoping.
Oh.
Yeah, redeem yourself, Kash. Please try.
Yeah. And Dan, wow.
On this next story, let's change our scenery a little bit here. Imagine you're strolling along the beach, a sea breeze in your lungs, the rhythmic crash of the waves in your ears, sky and open locked sapphire stare. A pot of dolphin appears, playfully breaking the surface. You raise your phone to capture the moment. But wait, not if you're James Comey. No dolphins for you. Instead, you turn your eyes with a narrowing, suspicious shaped rock in a formation that vaguely resembles the national security risk 8647. Snap. Classified.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said Comey should be put behind bars for issuing a hit on President Trump. So Comey's out for a walk. All right. You saw, did you guys see his post on
Yes.
I saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah. And it was a picture of seashells that formed the number 8647. So he captioned
they
the
didn't
post.
just wash up that way?
Yeah, exactly, right? But he captioned the post, cool shell formation on my beach walk. And 86 is a well-known number meaning to kill, nix, or eliminate. And 47 is our 47th president. So that's Trump. Comey deleted the post and claimed he wasn't aware that 86 stood for any sort of violence. That is such an implausible excuse given his former high position in the intelligence community. Gabbard said Comey knew exactly what he was doing and needs to be held accountable according to the law. Gabbard also said for Comey to think that we, the American people, are so stupid as to think that he, a former FBI director, a former prosecutor, and someone who clearly pays attention to what's going on, didn't know what this actually was calling for. He looked as a law and order type guy. Gabbard pointed out that Comey still has a lot of influence and that many people still take him seriously. I guess Secret Service is launching an investigation into the threat. The White House also commented on Comey's bizarre behavior. I just remember Comey's involvement in the Russia hoax and his handling of the Hillary emails, if you remember that, the investigation. During an interview, Trump said Comey knew exactly what that meant. And we live in strange times. And here's a couple of so I put down a couple of interesting sidebar notes. And you guys didn't know this, but I just had read this on Twitter. Comey posted this 8,647 days after 9/11. I just thought that was very interesting. And he posted it exactly 8 years and 6 days after Trump fired him. Those are just two interesting things.
Very interesting.
Yeah. It's like Midrash in real life or something. Midrash in life or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Perhaps Comey should be put 8 miles out and 6 feet under.
Yeah. and that's another thing is what's the measurement? It's 8 feet long, 6 feet wide, right? Isn't it? That's I don't know. Is that the measurement of a grave?
I'm not sure.
Grave dimensions, exactly.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
8 feet deep, 6 feet under.
Wow. Interesting.
Woo!
Wow, that's even more of a
On to wars and rumors of wars. But I thought there's peace and prosperity.
Exactly. Right. So the wars and rumors of wars. Here are 4 major global conflicts that'll reach in a tipping point. All right. I'm going to go through them real quick. 2025 certainly turning out to be a year of war. I know everyone wants to talk about Joe Biden's cancer, and I'm afraid this is far more important. And we could find ourselves in the kinetic phase of World War III. First off, Israel versus Hamas. Do you guys remember the massive anti-Israel protests we witnessed last year? If Israel really does attempt to take total control of Gaza, we are witnessing the IDF continue to operate against terrorist organizations in Gaza. So that's one. Second, Israel versus Yemen. We saw this past week the IDF conducted another huge wave of airstrikes on the Houthis. In response, the Houthis fired 2 long-range missiles at Ben Gurion Airport. At this stage, the two sides effectively are in war. So third, the U.S. and Israel versus Iran. Many hope that President Trump would be able to make a deal with Iran. Unfortunately, those hopes appear to be failing. The Ayatollah recently viciously lashed out at President Trump, called him a liar, and called for the destruction of the Jewish state. That sounds like the Ayatollah is ready for peace. Then again, when the world cries, peace and safety, then the end will come, right? So once the U.S. and Israel start bombing Iran, there will be no turning back. Lastly, Russia versus NATO backed Ukraine. NATO backed Ukraine. Last Friday, 5/16, so that's May 16th, we learned that Russia wants to end the war in Ukraine. They asked a lot maybe too much, but they are winning the war. And throughout history, those that win wars usually set the terms for peace. Right now, the two sides are not even in the same universe as far as what potential peace deal would look like. Trump and Putin talked for 2 hours on the 19th, so that was this past Monday, and it looks like Trump has abandoned efforts to mediate peace in Ukraine. Sadly, the entire world is feeling the pain of war. So the pull towards war, it's just crazy.
I don't know. It seems that, the peace plan and the golden age that he's planning doesn't look like it has much potential, considering the wars are considering to basically go out of control at this point.
Yeah.
Which begs the question, why are we making deals with one of the sides?
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I think we're always making deals with both sides.
Yeah. Behind
unfortunately.
The scenes. Yep.
Yeah, with the merchant of death, America. Speaking about merchants, let's talk about Oregon. In a land where you can legally identify as a woodland creature, but not as your actual biological sex, the Oregon Education Service District has taken bold action against a children's book. That's right. A book like He is He and She is She was just too scandalous for story time. Why? Because they affirm a radical ideology that boys are boys and girls are girls.
Isn't that nuts? That's nuts. So
Crazy.
Oregon Education Service District bans the two books, He is He and She is She, and they're both children's books, proving once again that LGBTQ rights and the First Amendment cannot coexist. Banning children books that affirm biology and gender. So if only they showcase books that peddle rainbow or Black Lives Matter propaganda, masquerading as diversity, of course. But anyway, a teacher named Rod Thies had these two books in his office, and he was instructed to get rid of them. They threatened termination. So Alliance Defending Freedom is defending Thies' freedom of speech and his ability to exercise his religious liberty. A federal lawsuit was filed to challenge this senseless censorship. Apparently, biology is bigotry now. These books were branded transphobic and hostile expressions of anonymous towards another person. We live in Babylon Bee world, man. We just do. And how are books that speak the wonders of girlhood, womanhood, boyhood, manhood a form of hatred? So the same people who've been sounding the false alarm about book banning across the country are the ones banning books that simply tell the truth. So there's really no America without free speech or religious liberty. That's just it. That's the way it is.
I can't wait for, instead of the red armbands, there's going to be like a rainbow armband they're going to put on, and then they're going to start just burning books. That's the direction we're heading. This is a transphobic book. It was written by the Jews.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's just a rehashing of history, man.
Nuts.
Drag queens for kids, totally okay. Just a regular book, not okay.
Not okay.
The little engine that could. He's too masculine.
Yes, exactly.
He's part of the patriarchy.
He's part of the patriarchy that are just destroying women's rights. He thinks he can, and then he does.
He does.
It's comical, but at the same time,
it's sad.
It's sad that it's probably heading that way.
Yeah. Oh.
I'll tell you what's comical. I have a very comical video to share with both of you. In fact,
my apologies. I was wearing my mask because I just got back from a full day of being a good person. I love my mask because it's a simple yet effective way to display my righteousness. Am I concerned that 2 children in China dropped dead because they were forced to wear masks in gym class? Nope. Am I concerned that we're creating a generation of children who will be socially awkward and conditioned to fear their fellow man? No. Am I concerned that I'm contributing to an impending socialist technocracy that will enslave the global population? Not even a little bit. Am I concerned that my mask is symbolic of my compliance to the social conditioning that will eventually lead to the forced vaccination of every man, woman, and child on planet Earth? Not a chance. And why am I not concerned, you ask? I'm not concerned because I decided a long time ago that shallow, insignificant gestures are a much easier way to showcase my morality than actually being moral. Because in order to be a real good person, I gotta stand up to a real bad person. And I don't like standing up to or for anything. I've decided that it's much easier to trick my own mind into thinking compliance is a virtue instead of what compliance actually is: cowardice. I prefer to float through life completely ignorant to the fact that every socialist takeover has always begun in the exact same way, with government overreach, public shaming, censorship, and a toilet paper shortage. Don't believe me? Google toilet paper shortage in communist Russia. Did you think you were having a unique experience? I prefer to pretend history never repeats itself so that I can stand by and turn a blind eye every time history repeats itself. I prefer to call anyone who speaks up, fights back, or stands their ground a lunatic or a conspiracy theorist so that I don't feel obligated to do my own research. Research takes away from me time. And lastly, I prefer to put on my mask and stand among a sea of masks so that I never have to be seen, be free, or reveal the deep dark shadows that lurk within me.
You know, they say that satire and sarcasm are dead.
Oh,
But I don't
no.
think it's quite dead. I think it might be 8 feet under, but I don't think it's 6
It's
feet.
still kicking.
Yeah, it's still kicking. It needs to be staked.
She had, like, the police were called on her like 4 times for not wearing a mask. And she was escorted multiple security guards by multiple security guards from 2 hospitals because she wasn't vaxxed. And she actually let them know. She goes, "No, I'm not vaxxed." And she went through a lot, man. That's awesome, though. That's a great a great comeback.
That is a fabulous video. I if I were the head of the Academy Awards, I would give her one, an Emmy at least.
Absolutely.
We're talking about hospitals. Let's watch this video about hospitals.
Remember that in 2018, remdesivir, one of my favorite targets, remdesivir was too unethical to put into Ebola clinical trials in Africa because it had a 53% kill rate published in medical journals. Ebola doesn't have a 53% kill rate, but it was chosen in April and May of 2020 to be the drug of choice to treat COVID. This drug was too unethical to use in an African clinical trial because it was killing 53% of the people that it was given to. And we had Anthony Fauci, Deborah Birx sitting next to the president going, "We need to use remdesivir," despite the fact that the World Health Organization said it was unethical to use it. Here's the problem. The problem is, as long as the financial interest that dictates what product is going to be promoted is the one making the declaration of the pandemic, we have no possibility for accountability. We have no possibility for justice. And what we do is we allow people who were formed out of the eugenics office, Carnegie Mellon in 1913, that same group of people that were the same group of people that established the World Health Organization in 1953, that same group of people are the ones who are making this decision. And I don't know how you feel about eugenics, but I have a problem with it.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So did you know? So I'm gonna read something real quick that RFK Jr. wrote. He wrote this. He said, "Remember when Fauci came into office in 1968? About 6% of Americans had chronic disease, including obesity, neurological problems, allergic, and autoimmune diseases. By 1986, 11.8% of children had chronic disease. By 2006, that number had risen to 64%." That's Fauci's track record, and that's a quote from RFK. I don't even know what it is now. Who knows what it is now? It's beyond insanity.
Well, and now it's required for kids' vaccinations.
Yeah. They have like 6 or 7 or 8 vaccinations, 20 years ago, and now they're up to like 50 by the time you're 2 years old. It's crazy. It's insanity.
When I thought we were going to get rid of the Department of Education. When's that
I
happening?
know. You're supposed
Yeah.
to.
When's that happening?
I don't know.
You're right. It's only 5 months into it.
Yeah.
The FBI is still kicking and obviously doing a great banger up job. And the Department of Education is still vaccinating kids or forcing them to be. Man, I can't help but love all the winning that's happening.
Winning. Oh.
here we go. Next one.
Representative Jackie, are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here to help make this a reality.
Where is Jackie?
Jackie Walorski was killed in a car accident a few months earlier. So
She was 8 and 6.
Yeah. Yeah, she's 86. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good timing.
And then it just, yeah. And there's so many of these gaffes. I just like throwing them out there because it was in my Twitter feed, my X feed, and I was like, man, it's short. So,
So he was compass mentis, and he was sound of mind and definitely able to deal and juggle with the crucial things that are going on in the country, but didn't know that Jackie was dead.
Yeah.
When he was giving a speech.
No. Yeah. And the thing is what's his name? Jake Tapper came out with a book that it's been getting slammed because it's like, it talks about his mental decline, and it's like, you just found that out. You just, and the book just came out.
What's your problem? Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
By the way, that is a direct quote of Don't Run, one of my favorite YouTube channel when it comes to political commentary.
Oh wow!
Don't walk, run.
Don't walk, run. Okay.
Finally, we have
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen that before. He killed himself.
Wow. That's just... Did you see Bongino 2 years ago in 2023?
Don't forget. Don't let them put this under the covers.
Yes, we can't let it go.
We can't let it go. We can't let
expose
it go. Yeah. Crazy.
He just looked like he was staring off into space.
Yeah. It's just, I have no idea where to put that, but that's just, you talked about it on Catching Up a little bit. That was like it took the air out of everybody's tires.
Well, see, what you don't know is, on set, there was a monitor right next to Maria with a video feed of Dan Bongino's entire family with black hoods on. Yeah. And men with, knives and various torturing equipment behind them.
Yeah.
That's where that
pretty much
comes from.
Crazy. Yeah.
I think that's all we have for today. I'm just going to close this out with this encouragement after such a heavy show. We all will need it. Let us be reminded that in Psalms 48, 9 and 10, verses 9 and 10, within your temple, O God, we meditate on your unfailing love. Like your name, O God, we pray your praise reaches to the ends of the earth, and your right hand is filled with righteousness. Unlike a mask, the Lord's right hand is filled with righteousness. And what's more, as we are also his temple, let us always meditate on his unfailing love for us.
Amen.
With that, God bless you guys. Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you so much, Brett. God bless
you guys.
Until next time.
And everyone listening.
Ken's Corner.